What's up guys, Dave with Miracle Canine Training out here with another dog training Q&A. So we're gonna burn through some questions here. We got 5 good ones for you guys to look at throughout the course of this week. So we're gonna get started. This first question is a little bit of a long one. This one's from Shayna. Shayna asked, we recently moved, and then in parentheses, underground fence scheduled to be put in next week. Previous yard wasn't as exposed, and our 3-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog was never leash trained and could run all the time, anytime. New house, housing development, exposed yard, lots of people, dogs walking by. Our dog goes insane and barks and seems irritated. Her manners are off the charts, plus her size and sound freaks people out. We don't even know where to start. She acts like she needs Ritalin and a tranquilizer. This behavior went unchecked during a recent international adoption and tons of travel. Our fault for failing the dog. We are considering purchasing an e-collar, but don't want to overcorrect. Advice on where to begin. All right, so again, you got a lot of stuff going on. You got a dog that's freaking out and going ballistics in a new environment, which we'll see. Change of environment for any dog can throw them off and throw them out of any sort of routines they have. But ultimately, the big problem here is you probably got the dog when you were in a lot more secluded of an area. You had more space. You didn't have as many distractions going on around you, so you never really saw the importance of doing training, period, with the dog, right? Which, you know, isn't to shame or blame you, right? I get it. We have tons of clients that come in those same situations, but frankly, the dog just hasn't had training before, and you've never seen the triggers you're seeing now that would have set the dog off in this way. So nothing's changed outside of you're now in an environment where you're seeing that you need training, and you're seeing the holes involved with not having trained the dog before, right? So where to start? You really have to just start at the beginning. You know what I mean? Start at the beginning with your basic training. Start at the beginning with foundational prong collar work, jumping into the e-collar work. Working with a trainer is going to be ideal in situations like this if you have the means of being able to do so. But if not, you got to first and foremost come up with a really concrete way to tell the dog yes and no, right? Particularly no. That's the more important side of things. I would maybe say get an e-collar, right? So get your mini educator e-collar, and before you actually start the formal training process, I would start just applying consequences for general behavioral issues. So you're gonna want to basically simulate a board and train in your house. And what the first week of a board and train looks like with dogs that are here is they're crated at night when you're not home, right? So if you don't have a crate already for the dog, I would get a crate. I would start doing crate training with the dog. We immediately e-collar condition the dog so that if there's any nonsense in the crate, we can correct for that. So if the dog is barking in the crate, pawing at the crate, trying to push at it, anything like that, you can tell them no, you can correct them nice and firmly for that, and let them know when you're in there, you need to chill out. You need to settle down. You set that tone immediately, right? The next thing that we typically will do with all of the dogs is we remove any sort of privileges, right? They don't need toys right now. Take all of the toys, put them in a basket, put them in the closet for the next week here, right? They don't get treats. If you're giving treats out regularly, put them away. You don't need them right now, right? The dog needs to be on a concrete feeding schedule. Make sure the dog is eating twice a day, consistently, all of their food, adjust that food down if they're not eating all of the food or if they're being free fed. And then we start first and foremost while we're working through teaching things, just applying corrections for things that we don't want. So take away furniture access, correct the dog if the dog gets up on the furniture, correct firmly for any barking out the window, correct firmly for any barking at the door. If you have a yard in the back that you let the dog out in, the dog barks at things walking by, you correct firmly for that stuff. And the first step is to essentially get yourself down to level ground, right? So you have a dog now that's all the way up here all the time because you're in a new environment. What we need to do is we need to remove those kind of privileges that the dog currently has, take them all away, start correcting for these things you don't want so you can have baseline, right? We have a dog that isn't doing things that we don't want them to do in the house. I'm not worried about the walk right now, right? So that we could start building the dog back up, right? From there, you go through basic prong collar training. You then add the e-collar in very quickly for the walk. We have a part 1 and part 2 video that details that process with the dog major. So if you search major e-collar introduction on the walk, you'll find that part 1 and part 2 video. That should take you maybe 3 days to be able to do with the dog with the e-collar. And then you just keep building from there, right? We got videos on training the recall, and we got videos on training the bed command and all that kind of stuff, and you can start plugging away. But first and foremost, you have to gain control, right? And gaining control is going to come down to stopping the things you don't want, getting a really bomb-proof walk under control, and then, like I said, removing all of those privileges because your dog has clearly showed you that they have not earned those privileges. And then once you kind of get to a place where where the dog is starting to even out with things, you can kind of take your time with stuff a little bit more. Like I said, this is going to be way easier if you work with a trainer, just because they're going to be able to coach you through the teaching process. But as far as correcting the behaviors and simulating that board and train in the house, that stuff is simple, but I say it's simple because physically doing those things is easy, right? Sticking a dog in a crate, telling them no, giving corrections and stuff like that for unwanted behaviors is effortless, right? But emotionally, it's really hard for the dog, or not for the dog. Emotionally, it's really hard for the owner because they're used to, just as much as the dog may have like separation issues and anxiety related issues and stuff, the owners tend to have these towards the dogs as well, right? They will, you'll miss having the dog up on the couch with you. You'll miss having the dog sleeping in the bed with you. You're gonna feel bad when you correct the dog for doing something that they shouldn't be, as opposed to just realizing this is a necessary step and this is a very necessary month that we're going to need to spend resetting these rules and boundaries so we can hit the reset button and enjoy the dog long term, right? You can enjoy the dog for the next 10 to 12 years that you're gonna have the dog for. Get right cruising on those things. Like I said, board and train in the house, crate at night when you're not there, correct firmly for any nonsense in the house, start your basic training with your basic prong collar obedience work, which we have videos on, basic key collar introduction on the walk for those types of things. And like I said, find a trainer. Trainer's gonna be able to help you a lot more with this kind of stuff. So hope that helps. You just gotta train the dog. That's all you got going on right now.